Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. Here we are, back live at Never Been Promoted podcast, YouTube channel. Had a coughing fit there. Had to just pause a minute coming on. Hey, today we're going to be live again. We're going to be talking about AI and and how it helps you save time and money with the founder of the AI consulting network, Avi Hacker. So he's going to join us and talk to us about some of the stuff he's learning from just running this consulting network and how he's grown it and his journey as well. So it'll be, if you have any interest in AI, or maybe you've crawled out under a rock and realized that AI is a big thing now, good place to start right here, right now. I think he's actually an attorney too, so we won't hold that too against him. We'll see how he's leveraging that in his current career. I'm sure his parents are proud, but yet upset. He's, we'll get into it. It's going to be a big thing. If this is your first time here, know that our mission is very clear. We want to help entrepreneurs get better at entrepreneurship. Specifically, I want to see more entrepreneurs in the world. It's a hard route. It's a tough thing to do to become an entrepreneur. It's hard to make that first step. It's hard to stick with it, hard to be successful. Oftentimes you got all these things kind of holding you back. And the idea of the cut tie is to cut those ties to the things that do to help you kind of unleash your entrepreneur. So if you've got a minute, by the way, just if you can, get out there and possibly, go to, neverbeenpromoted.com, check out our website there. We got some cool resources. You can pre-order the book coming out. And also, if you could, one call to action is subscribe to the YouTube channel at Never Been Promoted. If you're listening to this, give it a 5-star review. If you love it, that's a great thing that helps us quite a bit. But enough of the shameless promotions. Let's bring in Avi. Avi, how are you doing today?
Hey, Thomas. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on here. I mean, you're you've got a good giant thing going on with the AI consulting network. So I know you're super busy. And as a former AI nerd, I'm excited to have this conversation to see where AI is taking it and the practicality of it and the hype and all those kind of things. But
yeah, there's so much going around these days. I just wanted to note, just because of, so there's no miscommunication, that I finished law school, but I did not pass the bar yet. So that is one key detail that I need to plug in there.
If you don't pass the bar, it may not change anything in your world.
Yeah,
it may require you to go practice law, and you're like, I'm not really sure I want to do that at this point. So
so right now I did push off the bar until February or the following July, because right now I'm fully focused on building my AI company.
Yeah, I get that. How are your parents taking that one?
They were actually very supportive. I was a little hesitant to tell them in the first place that I wanted to push off the bar, but after I told them, and I told them my plan, my focus, my vision, and then they were fine with it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, and you're in New York. Are you in New York?
Right now I'm in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Are you doing the bar in New York?
Right now I do plan on taking the bar in New York.
Yeah.
And then you can just transfer it to New Jersey after.
Yeah, that's going to take some studying.
Yeah.
It's a hard one to pass. I understand. Now, to be fair, I did go to law school for like a year or so and got to pay back that JD fee without finishing a degree. So I appreciate that you finished. But mine was worse. I didn't even get the degree. I was like,
I do have the diploma. It did come in the mail last week, so I do have.
Congratulations. Maybe before we get started, a little icebreaker. Are you from New York originally?
Yeah, born and raised.
All right. So, as a New Yorker, what do you tell someone is the one thing you must do in New York and the one that you should never do in New York?
Wow, that's a tough one. I would say if you're in New York, people always say to go to Times Square, and it's you have to see it. But I don't know. As going there so many times, I just think it's overhyped. But that could just be because I live there. And one thing to never do is, I don't know. Don't go when it's don't go driving in the city when it's like rush hour. Those
don't drive there at all. Really.
Yeah, don't drive at all.
Not to take your answer, but I'm gonna extend it. Don't drive at all. Just
Yeah,
take a cab from wherever you are, or use the trains. They're easy. I'll tell you, if you're
yeah,
afraid of subways, don't be. It's not that bad. It's maybe not do it at midnight or 1 o'clock. Stay
yeah.
when there's a lot of
Depends
people out.
upon the day. Depends also what time.
Yeah, I would. Like I say, you got to see Times Square once, but just know that that's like a 20-minute thing, maybe, and
Yeah,
that's it. Like, just then go on to Central Park and take a walk. I tell you, just walk up the street a little.
very nice.
Yeah, it's good. So you went to law school. How did you get into this AI? Well, first of all, so maybe just set up what is the AI consulting network, and then back into how you got there.
Yeah, so it's basically a business that I want to help small to medium-sized companies really leverage AI to boost their efficiency and their uh, effectiveness in their operations by leveraging AI. So, backing up is my journey here has been far from conventional. So, I went to Brooklyn College and I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in accounting, business management, and finance. And I was originally going the CPA route. So, that led me to PwC, where I dove into the world of technology, focusing on automation and security because I was in the risk assurance division. But I was always driven by the desire to really understand different aspects of business. So then I made the change to law school. And while I was at Cardozo School of Law, I worked part time for a solo practitioner in real estate and corporate law, really navigating complex deals and regulations around those areas. And it was during that time where my passion for AI came out, and I was so fascinated by its potential to really revolutionize how we work and live. So then I really dove in night after night, really applying it to everything I was doing to see it how it could really be practical and leverage it to everyday tasks that people are doing. And then I acquired the skill that I could really think through these business problems with my background. And I really wanted to change the way people operate and help them use AI while doing it.
In the business model itself, how do you monetize the AI consulting network? Are you doing consulting, or is it a referral piece? Like, talk about the actual, because
Yeah, so right now I want to go to companies and I'll meet with them for I'm breaking it up into three steps: an analyzation piece, an implementation piece, and then an advisory piece. So I want to come into their company. I'll speak to them about how are they utilizing data or what's their current process in their current operations. And then we'll really map out their entire structure. And then once we have that mapped out, we can locate where the inefficiencies lie and then see how we could leverage AI to automate or use generative AI for those certain parts to really quicken up their system. So if they're doing manual reviewing of documents and that could be done as a first draft within 30 seconds, you could save so much time, and that compounding time will generate so much money and save time over a long term.
So when you're doing the consulting, like, take me through that. So, or take a different perspective. I'm a business owner that wants to use AI in their business. What do I do? It's like, oh, is it just GPT and content? Take me through, like, kind of like, how am I thinking as a customer right now, and why haven't I pulled the trigger? Like, so, because it seems overwhelming, right? So even,
Yeah.
like, I'll give you an example. Even setting up a CRM for me, and I get AI, right? I get it enough to know that I just don't know anything. But the idea is that I can't even find time to set up a CRM, let alone bring AI into the organization. So tell me how these customers are thinking and the roadblocks they're going to need to overcome just to kind of take that first step and, put the fears to ease, because that's, as a buyer, I'm like, yeah, no way. I don't have bandwidth even to talk to you. So tell me what to do there. Cause
Yeah, I think when I speak to a lot of people, there's a big hesitancy just to leverage the technology. So when I walk them through the process, I tell them that it's not going to be so overwhelming. I could walk them through the process step by step on how to leverage the technology and explain it to them that it's not as scary as it may seem, and it's not going to be perfect. And if you're looking for a solution just to solve everything for you, this is not it. But it could significantly improve your day and save time in your day. So let's say you're when I map out your system, I'll tell you, okay, for this certain part, you could automate that system, and then I'll show them that the rate of return, the rate on return is significant. I hope that answers your question. Or
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, because having someone who really knows how to tackle the AI problem, meaning like I assume you have to have some kind of functional area that you maybe look at initially. It might be marketing, it might be sales, it might be whatever it is. Or is there? I mean, that's probably a good question. What is the kind of the typical first step use case? Biggest bang for the buck. Because if you can drive value in the first few, 30, 60 days, then the next question is, oh, where else can we do this? Right? Then
yeah,
you're set. So where's the biggest bang for the buck typically when someone brings you in?
yeah. So what I've done in the past for the past few clients that I've had is really creating them a personal assistant that really you could brainstorm with. So you could create a personal project on Claude or a custom GBT on ChatGBT, and you could put in all of your information about your company, your personal data, like anything that is already online, so you don't have to worry about it leaking or being public. And then you write personalized instructions saying that you're an expert helper and assistant. And then when you have questions about your company or how to interact or how to create marketing campaigns, or you want to update your website, or you don't know how to respond to a client or solutions, you could go right there into the chat. And that chatbot already has so much personalized knowledge about you and the direction you want to go. And it will give you amazing tips on how to brainstorm, how to find solutions to problems you have.
Well, and I think that's I mean, who uses though the personal assistant? Is it the founder, or is it like who does that usually built for?
It could really be anyone in the organization for their specific role. So then once they have those in place, if you could also create certain chatbots, like I said, for document automation, you could say, okay, you could create a chatbot that whenever you give it a loan document or a title report, it could extract all the important points for you and create a first draft in a Google Doc for you to review. So that won't take you 2-3 hours to review the document. You could just review it right away. And then if you pair that in a no code automation tool like Mate.com or Zapier, you could set up an entire workflow. If you get a document, you put it in your Google Drive, then it analyzes it, it builds you the Google Doc, and then it already creates a task for you in your to-do list just to review that file. And then it could create for you a draft email to the client. And all of this happens with under a minute. And when you replicate this process for different areas of the business, it's exponential.
So you're more, mentioning like in the real estate mortgage world a little bit, or title, like the are you pre-building some of these for specific industry use then? So it's
Right
quicker
now,
for them.
yeah, right now I do have specific use cases in mind because I was working in real estate the past 2 years, and I have that, like, I really know the pain points in the industry. And the real estate industry is a particular industry that I find is more lagging behind than other industries in technology. So people and also lawyers, like, I guess they're in this very paper business. So it's really getting past through the change of how do you get them to start playing around with the technology? How do you start getting them to grasp about how significant this breakthrough really is? And that's the point that I'm facing a lot right now is you could tell them how great it is, but when I show them something I built out or an automation and they see it right before their eyes, then it's the light bulb moment of, oh wow, like I didn't even know this was possible.
In the legal world, like, there's been examples of people writing briefs to courts that made up fake
Yeah.
cases. I'm sure this is an objection of lawyers of how do I know it's not injecting its own ideas or creativity or interpretation? So how do you protect against that when you're dealing with I mean, because all that would fall on the title company or if you're doing in the
Yeah.
example here, where if they said, hey, you have clean title because of X, Y, and Z, but it turns out it wasn't.
Yeah. I think,
So how do you protect against that
yeah,
introduction?
with any technology, I think you have to use it smart and correct. And you have to make sure that any information you're using is going to be factual. So I always tell clients they have to review all the information the AI gives them. And it also matters about what large language model you're pulling from and what data source you're using. So is it pulling from data that you know is factually correct, or is it just pulling from anywhere on the internet? So you need to verify all of that information before you just ship it off without reviewing it. And there always needs to be that human component involved in the process along the way.
I
But
mean, do you know if like Westlaw, these, so Westlaw, these, as people don't know, is kind of like the cases, repository of where you go research for making
yeah,
a legal argument. Are they incorporating an LLM of sorts on top of that, where you could basically leverage that would be the only data source it's referencing? I'd say it that way, where it's like, hey, can you connect that data source to say like a GPT or a Claude at this point in time, and it's
yeah,
only reference it'll have?
I do think they are playing around with the functionality. I haven't delved too much into their specific process, but even with that, there is some risk of hallucin like of it making up stuff, because if you ask it a question and the knowledge base is so large, or you don't ask it in a proper way, it could make up a ruling of a case if it doesn't know exactly what case you're talking about. So anytime it cites you anything, you always have to refer back to the main source, validate that the main source is
Yeah.
accurate, validate that it's true. Like, never use anything just relying, oh, it sounds like it's correct, but that's where people go wrong, and that's where I feel like AI gets its bad stigma from, because people do rely on it without double checking its accuracy.
Oh, there was we got access to OpenAI's beta a few years before it was available as Chat GPT, and we were automating some commenting response on LinkedIn with it, just play with it just because we could. And it was crazy where it would come up with something like, hey, reply as me saying, oh, my dad also died in a plane crash and was part of the NFL. And I'm
Yeah,
like, what? Like both those things are factually wrong. But I'm like, okay, guys, we got to tone this down. This thing is just making up shit. Because it's trying to, you gave it the instructions to relate and, empathize.
yeah.
Uh, and so when you're doing today, like where, hey, listen, here's a document to review, without introducing new things, GPT, let's say, or AI LLMs can do a very good job, or I'd love your opinion. I think they do a very good job of summarizing the key points. If you say, hey, this is what I'd be concerned about in this document, does any of this exist? And what's your summary of this document? And that it does a good job of that for you. Would you agree that's a good, safe way, time, money, to get a handle on the document itself, to say this is just pretty much a normal standard kind of thing, move on? Or is that still risky to kind of give it that summary, give me the hot points?
I would say it's a good way to approach it, only if you have the correct instructions to guide it on what to look for. Because I post a lot about, if you just write, hi, give me a summary of this document, it's so vague, it doesn't know how to approach it. But if you tell it, act as an expert summarizer, and then pull out three important points and make it in a chart that's presented to a buyer. So if you really give out the details and the way you want it to present it and the way to frame the question and the way to act, then you could really lower the risk of hallucinations and it making up stuff and giving you a much better quality output.
So does it help if let's say you set up a custom, using Chat GPT, you can give it custom instructions for every conversation of, here's your expertise, this is the bounds. Do you set things up like that for the customer as well, that they have like this knowledge-based expert for each one? Or I guess my point is, how do you protect that? Because once you could do it, I believe, you know it, but as soon as you hand the keys over to that car, people start tinkering with it. How do you
Yeah.
keep the client on track to not get it out of bounds, I guess, is probably the question I'm asking.
Yeah, I would hop on, like, I would train the client on how to use it, how to interact with it, and then I would always start off with like a small use case, never fully implement AI into the entire operations right away. Like, you have to iterate and refine and making sure everything is proper. And then that's where I would stay on as an advisor to make sure that everything is running smoothly and staying up to date, and they're not doing anything that would cause it to go wrong. And as we see, if you look in the news every single week, there's a new large language model dropping, there's a new technology. So it's evolving so fast that you think you're on the cutting edge of technology today, but tomorrow something new gets released.
Oh,
So I feel like a lot of
no.
companies would want to have someone that's knowledgeable in the business world and also in the AI world, and I'm trying to create that connection to like close that gap between the two.
In your kind of research of own tools, like where do you favor from a technology standpoint to an application? So, for example, do you like GPT for content, Claude for document summary? Like, where does the technology stack like,
Got it.
and
Yeah.
why? To it,
Yeah.
the why matters.
So originally, before Claude Projects was launched, I loved custom GPTs. So ChatGPT was my main platform, and I find ChatGPT is great for complex reasoning and working through tougher problems. I like using Claude right now projects because I create my custom projects on Claude, and they also have a very cool artifacts feature on where it builds you out like an interface, and you could it kind of codes certain applications for you right on there, and you could see how it looks. So Claude is better at writing in natural language, and ChatGPT is better at complex reasoning, in my opinion. And then for research, I like using Perplexity, as it has been very good with pulling correctly cited information and summarizing it, and then you're able to verify where the information came from. And that's kind of like my three tools that I use every day. And then for meetings, I use Otter AI to transcribe my meetings, so I could have quick follow-ups and never miss any important points, so you're able to really focus on the client in a meeting and not have to worry about did you miss an important point or not. And there's so many little ways that you could leverage AI in every single aspect of your life, that when it all comes together, the things you could do is truly amazing.
Yeah, and I like those tool sets too. And I like that you didn't mention like Zapier as an AI tool. It is an automation tool. So I think maybe take a few minutes to help dispel where people talk about automation in the terms of AI, and it is completely separate. Like one is uh, there. Take a few minutes on that, because I think people need to separate intelligent automation from AI in general, because it is not the same thing, though they are used sometimes together.
Yeah.
And I assume you run into this where there's a, hey, let's get your standard library of terms right and understand what we're talking about here. But take a few minutes on that, because I think it's really important to understand that distinction.
Yeah. So like a standard automation from like make.com and Zapier was you have a trigger and you have an action. So if something happens, something automatically happens after that. And that's an automation. So you get an email, you create a rule, and if it has a word in that email subject line, it'll automatically go to a folder. So that's an automation. That is not inherently AI. But now if you incorporate AI into that automation, you could say, okay, now you have that rule. If you have that word in the email subject line, move it to this folder. And then once it's in that folder, look at the contents within the email. And according to these instructions, generate a reply to the sender. Then that is AI. And that is combining automation with AI to really improve that automation process you had initially.
Yeah. And I think that's, when you do, and I assume when you're doing consulting, you help with both of those, because it's one thing to automate, but it's also knowing when.
Yeah.
And when to take something from AI. So it's very dangerous, I think, in a good use case that this is used all the time, is using AI to write content that automatically is being sent out to people in DMs or emails. That's a dangerous step, because you become super brand spammy as soon as you do that. It's even more dangerous when it's something of a legal document nature, where you're taking inputs and then putting an email and sending it as fact without the human check. And so you gave an example of that, but do you see in your clients that more of them favor more human checks at this point before automating pieces, or where's kind of what's the state of the art on that one?
Yeah, I would never tell a client or even set up a system that's going to be fully automated and something's going to happen without a human verification piece, because the risk is far too great and there could be way too many implications, like legally, ethically, morally. there's too many. So between every step, I would say that there has to be a human reviewing it. And then a common pushback I have is like, oh, if I still have to be so involved in the process, why use AI to begin with? But it really, like, you have to prepare a first draft of a document. So do you want to review the entire document, going through every single line just to prepare the first draft, or do you want that first draft prepared for you and then you could kind of review it side by side with that document? And it's so much quicker when you have someone else preparing a first draft for you to get started. And then once you have a first draft of everything you need to do, you need to do that final review and make sure everything's
Mhm.
in order before you click send. So let's say for the email example, I have it draft replies. Either you could do it through make.com or Zapier, that it could draft the reply within Outlook, or it could go to a Google Sheet. So there's no risk of it even being sent out. So you get the email, it drafts a reply, and it puts it in a Google Sheet, and now you review the Google Sheet, and then you paste it into your Outlook, edit it, and then send. So you really want to create that barrier so there's nothing that's going to happen that's automatically done without your permission.
How do you quantify the savings or the impact of what you do with the customer?
That's an interesting question. And that's something that I'm also, it's hard to quantify because at the end of the day, there's a lot of variables in place. But if you just look at the common process, if how long it takes you to do a task and how long that task takes you with AI, and now how much are you making per hour, and how much time are you really saving by using AI in your workflow. And like, let's say you save 45 minutes and that 45 minutes is X amount, and now times that by X amount per week and per month and per year, you saved X amount of dollars and X amount of time to either leverage that time to do more work, or now go spend more time with your family, go spend more time doing things that you enjoy, or you could strategize and do more of the things in your work that you really enjoy than the grunt work, as people call it.
You know, the process timing and understanding it. So when you work with a customer, then there's an initial lift. And so, like, you're there to do something, but you need their time. What can a customer or a client expect, like, for the first month or whatever else? Like, hey, listen, you're going to have this many hours available. Like what's their lift to get you up and running?
I don't, it's not that much. I would say on an average week, it could be 1 to 2 hours a week and depends on how many verticals in their company they want me to analyze. So let's say we start off with one vertical process. So I would meet with the person that's in charge of that process and just tell them to walk me through that process. So it's not really going to take so long because a lot of the processes are the same across a lot of organizations. So I would have a familiar background with what they're doing. And if I don't, I'm sure it's not as complex as, like, I just need it to be explained to me. And where is the data going? How is it being flowed? Where is it being mapped to? And then once I get a good concept of that, I'll provide a report on everything mapped out. And then I could really locate, okay, we shouldn't automate the entire process or use AI for the entire thing, but there are certain bits and pieces of the process that you could leverage AI to make that entire process more efficient.
Um, what's the one question I haven't asked you that I should have when is regard to, like, using AI in a business or in the work that you're doing with companies?
You covered a lot of the basic fears, like uh, legal, like ethical. People are very scared about it not being authentic, which I say it is just as genuine as authentic as writing it yourself. As because if you have a professional book writer or people give speeches, people write those speeches for them, people edit those books. And if you actually play around with AI, you'll slowly realize that the output it's giving you is really not something that you should be, I guess, proud to publish without editing. So if you're just putting in input and getting the output and publishing that on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and hoping that people be like, okay, great, now I'm posting every day, people will realize that you're you're just using AI. But the real skill comes in editing the content, putting in your thoughts, or
Right.
tailoring the content in a way that it really does resemble you and it reflects your values and opinions.
It's interesting too, right? We'll submit articles. My team writes all my content based on my ideas and stuff, and we'll submit an article to entrepreneur.com, and they'll be like, "Hey, this was AI written," and we'll be like, "No, it wasn't." And it was like we write it and we use AI to refine it, but with our thoughts, and it gets a little frustrating because I'm like, do I have to misspell words? I mean,
Yeah, that's what people
and
are
so I'm not
thinking
really
of.
sure
Like,
these
I
AI
purposely
checkers.
respell words. Like, no, that's what people say. It's like they do it to be like, okay, yeah, it's not AI written. This sentence looks bad. I don't know. People try to do things so it's not looking like AI written. So I think there's the struggle between that.
There is like I think the AI checkers. I mean, like an AI wrote this. Like, well, an AI enhanced it, but they reject articles that are 100% our thought, then just refine for tonality and word usage with AI, which is what Grammarly used to do, right?
Yeah,
And it's like sometimes the other side of AI is getting in the way of, and what happens is like on the algorithms for social media, I'm noticing too, is that they're degrading AI generated content. Um, but not all of it is AI. It's like, wow, it's like, I guess I got to go with like the text message versions of, you and the letter R and like write it in a way that I guess humans talk nowadays. It's unbelievable to me. So, are you seeing that sometimes maybe just in your work where AI actually, though, as great as it is sometimes that's an example of it inhibiting progress because it's checking something of which is being used to make it more readable. It's like, well, huh.
yeah. It's like AI
So,
training
so
AI.
maybe in your world, how have you seen it get in the way, if at all?
I haven't really seen it get in the way. I think it's the thing that gets in the way is the way people are approaching AI now because it's a new technology and people are scared on what it will do. Will it take over your job? I don't think it will take over so many people's jobs. I think I approach it more as it will augment your job. You have to upskill a little bit to get familiar with the technology, just like with any technology, there's ever changing times and you have to try to adjust. So there will also be, it will create a lot of new jobs with this type of technology. So I think we just have to reframe our focus to be an AI first mindset that when you're
Yeah.
approaching tasks, you're not like, okay, how could I do this? And if I run into an issue, okay, could AI help me? It's more, could I try to use AI first, see if it could do it, see if it could do a good job, and then just refine, edit, and then approach it that way.
Yeah. So, I'll ask you kind of who your ideal customer is, but who is AI not for? Like, who shouldn't use it, if
I
anyone?
think
Like,
I think AI could be applied in really any single part of business because even if you're in a business where you don't even deal with technology, which I don't know, you're in a moving business, an operating business, and you have manual labor, let's say a plumber. But what about the advertisement to get that plumber's information out there? How are they marketing? How are they creating that content for however they're marketing, the newspaper, their website? So there are always places that you could utilize AI to enhance your business in some way. Even though it may not cover
yeah.
every single aspect, you should try to find those places where you could use it and leverage it.
If you're about to retire and fishing and golfing is your new thing, I'm okay with AI not being used. Though I will tell you, sometimes it's easier to ask Chat GPT to, hey, I'll give you an example. I was out with kids. I don't know if you know what geocaching is. Geocaching is where people hide stuff all over the world, and you use this app, and they give you clues. And you got to go find it in the woods or whatever else. And so, anyway, there was a thing where we had to go count in this art sculpture thing. These huge sculpture, like 50 feet by 80 feet, and you got to count how many tubes were there. And then you plug that number into this thing, and it gave you this like math formula. And I was like, I have no idea what it's asking me to do here. So I said, there's 14 tubes. Here's the problem, plug it in. And it said, okay. And it showed all the math. And it's like, and your coordinates because of that are here. I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you. Because I was like, I cannot figure this out. Why I'm getting eaten by flies in the middle of a field trying to. And so we went out and we ended up and we found it. And my point is that's a good use of AI, even if you're retired. So there you go. You could use it anywhere.
Yeah.
Google would never solve that. ChatGPT did it and explained it. And it was kind of interesting to see how the math worked. And I was like,
Also, there's the voice functionality. If you have the app on your phone, you could just talk to
exactly.
it. And so I have it even sometimes up while working, and I'll just ask it a question while I'm working on a task. And it's kind of like just brainstorming with someone that has access to all of this information that could really just be helpful and just get an answer right away. So you don't even have to switch tabs, Google or research. It's just, hey, like, how should I frame this? And just someone gives you an answer right away and helping you.
Exactly. So I think no matter what, I think there's a place for it if you know how to leverage it correctly. Um, but I will still think you have this idea of fact checking, which creates a whole different. We probably do a whole show on just fact checking itself of where you go to find that. But anyways, how do people get a hold of you? And for you, like, who is the ideal right now, and where you are in this phase, customer for you to get a hold of?
Yeah. So right now you could find me on LinkedIn. That's my main platform. I'm posting there every day. I'm trying to build my social brand because I really want to be helpful to the most amount of people as possible. I'm starting my YouTube channel. It's called the AI Consulting Network. And my ideal person right now is a business owner, founder that has a small to medium sized company that is really looking to leverage AI to boost their efficiency and gain time and gain back time in their day. So you could reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you could go to my website on the aiconsultingnetwork.com, reach out to me. We could have a free consultation and we could take it from there.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, by the way, so much for joining today. I think
Thank
I
you.
love you're building it. I love from an entrepreneurial perspective, just to say it, I love that you've invested tons of money and time into an education that you may or may not use. I think it takes incredible strength and courage to say, I did this, but I'm not sure I want to do this. That's hard, especially when there's expectations from family and friends and
I think
keeping
it's
with.
through those experiences through PwC, through law school, that I'm having this well-rounded approach to actually implementing AI through that lens of, is this, could there be a legal repercussion? Is it safe from a
Right.
data privacy point of view? Because I've been through all of those experiences. So I'm not just going in narrow-minded, be like, okay, let's create it quick and worry about nothing else. I want to do it smart, strategically, and ethically.
Yes, and I think, and that's the point, is that just because you set a course to become a lawyer, let's say, you have different discovery of life experiences that says, I think I can do this, and draw upon that, which means it's still valuable. It's just not what its original intended use is. And where your company is now, fast forward 5 years, it'll be different. You'll be serving a different client. You'll be likely having a different approach. You may have, that's the nature of it. And I applaud you for doing it, because it's hard to do the pivots like that. But if you frame it of, hey, that was experience that I needed to get to where I am now, that's, I think, the right mindset. So
Yeah.
congratulations to you
Thank
for
you so
taking that
much.
approach. Yeah,
I
of course.
appreciate it.
Thank you, by the way. Listen, go to the AI Consulting Network.com and hit them up on LinkedIn /in/Avi Hacker Hacker. I can't speak. I'm stuttering for some reason. Maybe I should stutter my content and then it'd say
Yeah.
it's not AI written.
I don't know. I don't know if you're an AI robot or not. It's
You
getting
don't
there.
know. You have no
Yeah.
idea. I mean, if I was, I would have made myself a little better looking, a little more hair, maybe a little skinnier, a little chiseled jaw. I just left the fat and extra
Or
growth on
maybe
there.
not, because people would think.
Then it would have been detected. Good
Yeah.
point. Yeah, great point. Maybe I nailed it. All right, I'm going to put Mr. Avi here in the periwinkle room. There's no snacks or treats because I ate them all, but I'll be right back. Thanks, Avi, for joining me. I'll be right back
Thank you
with you.
so much.
Listen, guys, anybody who made it this point in the show, thank you. If it was your first time here, you rock. I hope you come back for more. As always, get out there, go unleash your entrepreneur. Go to youtube.com if you can. And if you get a minute, subscribe, hit the notifications button. It's a big piece for us to kind of, grow our community. The reviews on the podcast, if you'd like it, give it a 5-star. It really helps the community and our mission to help entrepreneurs get better at entrepreneurship. Till we meet again, go out there and go unleash your entrepreneur.